Dorchester Avenue, corner of Savin Hill, 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that should have ended 3 hours ago. The brass knuckles caught the busted streetlight, yellow sodium glow on dented metal as they swung toward the old woman's face. Seraphina Clarke didn't think. Her nursing bag hit at the wet pavement, split open, bandages and hand sanitizer rolling into the gutter. Her body crashed between Margaret Caldwell and three men in hoodies who smelled like desperation and bottom-shelf vodka. Back the hell off. Not a scream, a warning. Pure Southie grit compressed into 4 words. The lead mugger, early 20s, track pants sagging, pupils blown wide on something pharmaceutical, grabbed her scrub collar and yanked her close enough she could see the broken capillaries in his eyes. "You got a death wish, sweetheart?" I got 911 dialed. Seraphina's phone was actually dead, had been since 4 p.m., but her voice didn't waver. And I got about 12 hours of bullshit pin up, so yeah, try me. Behind her, the old woman pressed against the chain-link fence outside the closed auto zone, clutching a leather purse that probably cost more than Seraphina's entire year of rent. The woman's voice cut through the rain, sharp, commanding, even in fear. "Young lady, you need to run." Brass knuckles lunged. Seraphina wasn't a fighter. She was from Southie, which meant she'd spent 16 years dodging drunk uncles at family parties and breaking up nursing home. Brawls between dementia patients who thought it was 1952. She ducked left. His momentum carried him forward. Rain-slick concrete did the rest. He went down hard, knee cracking against asphalt, a sound like a wooden bat hitting pavement. His friend grabbed her from behind, forearm across her throat. Seraphina drove her elbow back, caught ribs, not gut, but close enough. He loosened. She twisted. Her head slammed into the fence pole. Pain exploded white-hot behind her eyes. The taste of copper flooded her mouth. The old woman screamed. Then sirens, red and blue lights bleeding through the rain like watercolors running together. The muggers scattered, 3 shadows dissolving into the maze of Dorchester side streets where the MBTA cameras don't reach and nobody asks questions. Seraphina dropped to her knees. The asphalt was cold and gritty, embedded with rock salt from last February that never quite washed away. Her head spun. She pressed her palm to the back of her skull, came away wet with rain and blood. "Don't you dare pass out on me." Bony hands gripped Seraphina's shoulders, strong hands. The old woman knelt beside her, expensive coat soaking in gutter water, and her eyes were steel gray and absolutely unafraid. "What's your name?" "Seraphina Clarke." Her phone buzzed against her hip. Liam, checking in from their studio in Ashmont, probably worried because she was 20 minutes past her usual walk-home window. I'm fine. You need to..." "Seraphina," the woman tested the word, smiled like she'd just discovered something valuable. "That means fiery one, doesn't it? It means my mom had delusions of grandeur." Seraphina stood, wobbled, forced her legs to lock. Training kicked in, assess the victim, stabilize, transport. "Can you walk?" "Hospital's 3 blocks, street. Margaret's on Gallivan." "I can walk." They moved together, nurse supporting patient, stranger supporting stranger, while the red line screeched overhead on the elevated tracks, metal on metal, the sound that marked every 12 minutes of Seraphina's life in this neighborhood. The ambulance pulled up. EMTs spilled out. Dave and Christina. Seraphina knew them from her ER shifts at Boston Medical. "Sarah, Jesus Christ, you're bleeding." "I'm good." Her first. Seraphina guided Margaret toward the gurney. "Possible head trauma? Witnessed assault. She hit the fence but stayed conscious." A cop approached. Young, baby-faced, probably 2 months out of the academy. His nameplate said Kowalski. He barely looked up from his phone while taking her statement. "You know her?" "No." "She know you?" "No." And what Seraphina didn't know, Margaret Caldwell was already memorizing every detail. The way this stranger in soaked Crocs and blood-stained scrubs had stepped between brass knuckles and an old woman's face without hesitation. The way she'd assessed injuries while her own head was bleeding. The way she'd said her first like it was the only possible option. This one's different. In the ambulance, as the doors closed, Margaret Caldwell looked at the EMT, a man in his 40s with kind eyes and 20 years of Boston emergency medicine carved into his face, and said, "Find out who she is." "Ma'am, we have your information." "Not me. Her." Margaret's voice carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. "The nurse. Find out everything. Where she works, where she lives, what she needs." The EMT glanced at his partner, confused. Margaret's eyes were steel wrapped in silk. "Everything." This story draws its power from the thousands of moments happening right now on America's streets, where ordinary people face impossible choices and choose courage anyway. While the characters you're about to meet and the events that unfold are crafted from imagination, the spirit of this story honors every person who's ever stepped up when walking away would have been easier. Officer Kowalski handed Seraphina a business card, the victim services number, an incident report number she'd never call. You need medical attention. I'm good. You're bleeding. I'm good. She walked home, 4 blocks. The rain had stopped, but everything smelled like wet asphalt and bus exhaust in the Caribbean bakery on the corner that stayed open until 2 a.m. Her head throbbed with every step. Her phone had 17 missed calls from Liam. Behind her, red and blue lights faded into the Dorchester night. Above her, the red line screeched toward Ashmont Station. And somewhere in a private room at St. Margaret's Hospital, Margaret Caldwell was making phone calls that would rewrite Seraphina Clarke's entire future. But Seraphina didn't know that yet. All she knew, she'd helped someone. The woman was safe. That was enough. She was wrong. It was only the beginning. Seraphina's apartment smelled like the Indian restaurant downstairs. Cumin and cardamom baked into the walls, in the mildew that grew in the bathroom corner no matter how much bleach she used. $1,450 a month for 400 square feet in Ashmont Hill. One room, pretending to be a studio. Windows that whistled when the wind hit right. Heat that worked maybe 3 days a week. Liam was asleep on the pull-out couch, the only furniture besides a folding table from Walmart and 2 plastic chairs with University of Phoenix logos she'd found on the curb last summer. His medication bottles crowded the windowsill like a pharmacy shelf. Keppra, 1,000 milligrams. Lamictal, 200 milligrams. Diazepam for emergencies. 17 bottles total. Each one a negotiation with the Walgreens pharmacist. Each one another swipe of the credit card that was already $847 past its limit. She opened the fridge. 2 Dannon yogurts 3 days past the sell-by date. Half a rotisserie chicken from Market Basket, $4.99, marked down because it was closing time. A bottle of Liam's anti-seizure smoothie mix that cost $32 and lasted a week, if he was careful. Her phone, 37 missed calls from St. Margaret's Hospital. She'd deal with that never. Checking account, $22. 47, credit card debt, $847. Medical debt from Liam's last hospitalization when he seized at Duncan and fell into the fry station, $94, 228.16. Student loans, indeferment because she couldn't afford the $340 monthly payment, $67,000. Her mother's saint. Christopher metal hung on the fridge door handle, tarnished silver catching the overhead light. Protect us from harm. Yeah, great job with that. You're bleeding. Liam sat up. 21 years old, but he looked 16 when he first woke up. All messy hair and confused eyes. Then the tremor in his left hand started. Subtle. The warning sign that meant his brain was misfiring, that a seizure might be coming in the next few hours or the next few minutes, or not at all, because epilepsy was a cruel lottery that way. I'm fine. Sarah? He stood, and she could see the fresh burn scar on his forearm, pink and shiny, still healing from last month's incident. What happened? She told him the edited version. Helped an old lady. Cops came. Everyone's fine. Left out the part where brass knuckles came within 6 inches of her face, and she could have died on Dorchester Avenue while he was home alone, waiting. You stopped a mugging. Liam stared at her like she'd grown a second head. In Dorchester, at midnight, in the rain. Yeah, well, she needed help. Seraphina peeled off her scrubs, soaked through, blood on the collar, smelling like rain and fear. She tossed them toward the corner that pretended to be a laundry area. Turned out fine. Oh, you could have died. But I didn't. She pulled on her other pair of scrubs, the backup pair with the permanent stain on the knee from when Mr. Patterson vomited blood on her during his final night. And she's okay. That matters. And Liam's face did the thing. The thing where he loved her and resented her and felt guilty for existing all at the same time. His good hand, the right one, the one without the tremor, clenched into a fist. You can't save everyone. And watch me. She kissed his forehead, grabbed her bag. The ER shift at Boston Medical Center started in 40 minutes, and the orange line had been running late all week. Your meds are on the counter. Take them with food, not just coffee. I'll be back by 3 a.m. Sarah, I love you. Lock the door. Text me every hour so I know you're okay. She was halfway down the stairwell, the one that smelled like cigarettes and someone's failed attempt at cooking meth 2 years ago, when her phone rang. Unknown number, Boston area code. She should ignore it. She had 28 minutes to catch the orange line at Ashmont Station. Or she'd be late and Janet would write her up again, and 3 write-ups meant termination. She answered anyway because maybe it was the hospital calling about the old woman, making sure she was okay. Is this Seraphina Clarke? A man's voice. Deep, controlled. The kind of voice that belonged to someone who'd never been told no in his entire life. Who's asking? My name is Nathaniel Caldwell. You saved my mother's life tonight. Silence. Just the drip of water from the broken gutter outside the stairwell window and the distant rumble of the red line 2 blocks over. "I'd like to meet you," he continued, smooth, practiced. "To thank you properly. Perhaps dinner. Not necessary." Seraphina was already walking, boots hitting the cracked sidewalk, heading toward the station. "Tell your mom I'm glad she's okay. Have a nice life." "I insist. I'd like to offer compensation for Look, Mr. Caldwell." She stopped at the crosswalk. The light was red, but no cars were coming. And she'd learned years ago that waiting for permission in this city meant you'd never get anywhere. "I got about 17 minutes to catch a train, or I'm late for my second job. Your mom's alive. I'm alive. We're good. Don't need compensation. Don't need dinner. Don't need anything. Everyone needs... I don't..." She hung up, shoved the phone in her pocket, crossed against the light. The Orange Line station glowed ahead, fluorescent and familiar and smelling like piss and humanity. Her phone buzzed. Text from the same number. "I'm not used to people saying no. This is refreshing." N. She stared at it for 3 seconds, almost deleted it, almost responded with something sarcastic about rich people and their expectations. Instead, she just kept walking. But she didn't delete it either. 3 blocks later, at the Ashmont Station turnstile, she swiped her Charlie card, $2. 40 she couldn't afford but had no choice about, and descended into the belly of the MBTA. Behind her, in the shadows of a side street she didn't notice, a black Mercedes S-Class idled at the curb. In the back seat, Nathaniel Caldwell watched her disappear underground. He didn't look away until the train pulled out. Then he told his driver, "Find out everything. Where she works, what she needs, how much debt she's carrying, every detail." Marcus, 50 years old and 20 years of Caldwell family employment, glanced in the rearview mirror. "Sir, with respect, everything, Marcus." "Understood." The Mercedes pulled away from Ashmont Hill, headed back toward Beacon Hill, back toward the world where cars cost more than most people's houses and nobody rode the T. But Nathaniel Caldwell kept thinking about the woman who'd hung up on him. Nobody hung up on him. Nobody. Sacred Heart Nursing Home, Roxbury. 6:45 a.m. Seraphina was 19 hours into a double shift, running on Dunkin' coffee that tasted like battery acid and spite. She'd just finished changing Mrs. O'Malley's sheets, stage 4 lung cancer, hadn't seen her kids in 8 months, kept asking when Michael was coming to visit, and Seraphina didn't have the heart to tell her Michael had moved to Phoenix and changed his number when Janet stuck her head in. "Clarke, visitor, VIP room." Seraphina didn't look up. "Tell them to make an appointment." "He's not here for a resident." Janet's voice had that edge, the one that meant, "Don't fuck this up, we need donors. He's here for you, and he looks like money." The VIP room was where rich families came to feel better about dumping their parents in Roxbury, instead of paying for Beacon Hill memory care. Leather chairs, coffee from an actual espresso machine, windows without cracks. Nathaniel Caldwell stood when she entered, 6'2", Tom Ford suit that cost more than her car, if she had a car, dark hair perfectly styled, face that belonged on Forbes covers, eyes that assessed everything like a balance sheet. "Miss Clarke," he extended his hand. She didn't take it. "You didn't need to track me down. My mother's been asking about you." He dropped his hand. Something flickered across his face. Confusion, maybe annoyance. "She wants to thank you personally." "Great. Give her my number. I'll text." Seraphina turned to leave. "I'd also like to offer you compensation. I don't need your money. Everyone needs..." "I don't." She faced him now. 5'4" in worn Crocs, but her voice could cut diamonds. "I helped an old lady. That's it. Not a transaction. Not a business deal. Not whatever you people call it when you throw cash at problems." "You people?" His voice sharpened. "Rich people. The kind who think everything's for sale, including basic human decency." The air between them went electric. "You don't know anything about me," Nathaniel said quietly. "I know you're wearing a watch that costs more than I make in a year." Seraphina's exhaustion was turning into anger now. 19 hours of watching people die alone, while their families couldn't be bothered. "I know you probably drove here, in something with heated seats, while I took 2 buses and walked 4 blocks. In the rain, I know." The door opened. A woman glided in, mid-30s, camel cashmere coat, blonde hair and a perfect chignon, smile like a knife wrapped in silk. "Nathaniel, darling, you've been gone for 20 minutes. Your mother's worried." She stopped, looked at Seraphina. The smile stayed, but her eyes changed. "Oh, is this the helper?" "Victoria." Nathaniel's voice went tight. "This is Seraphina Clarke, the woman who saved my mother." "How heroic!" Victoria's gaze traveled down Seraphina's stained scrubs, her Crocs, the exhaustion painted on her face. "And how authentic. You really are from here, aren't you?" "Born and raised," Seraphina said flatly. "Fascinating." Victoria stepped closer. Her perfume, something French, something that cost more per ounce than Seraphina's rent, invaded the space. Tell me, do you always approach wealthy strangers in the street? Or was Mother just particularly lucky? The insult landed like a fist wrapped in velvet. Victoria, Nathaniel started. I approach people who need help, Seraphina cut him off. Whether they're wealthy or not, doesn't change the fact that three men were about to crack her skull open. But I guess compassion's a hard concept when you're too busy shopping at Neiman Marcus. Victoria's smile froze. Excuse me? You're excused. Seraphina looked at Nathaniel. Tell your mom I'm glad she's okay, but don't come back here. I got work to do. She walked out. In the hallway, her hands shook, not from fear, from rage. Behind the closed door, Victoria laughed. Well, she's got spirit, almost charming in a Dickensian sort of way. Stop, Nathaniel said. Oh, please. You can't actually be interested. I said stop. But Victoria's eyes promised war. An hour later, Janet pulled Seraphina aside. I don't know what you said to those people, but the nursing home just got a $50,000 donation. Anonymous. Deposited 20 minutes ago. Seraphina's blood ran cold. He didn't. Nathaniel Caldwell didn't do irrational things. He ran a $4. $2 billion construction empire with algorithmic precision, union contracts, federal regulations, decisions that affected 7,000 workers across 3 states. He didn't chase nurses who told him to fuck off, yet here he sat at 7 a.m. in a Dunkin' across from Sacred Heart, watching Seraphina Clarke walk into her shift carrying a breakfast sandwich from the bodega next door. Marcus, his driver, 50 ex-Army, one of 3 people Nathaniel actually trusted, sat beside him. Sir, with respect, this is stalking. I'm ensuring she's safe. By watching her buy a bacon, egg, and cheese? Very heroic, sir. Nathaniel ignored him. He'd been doing research. Seraphina Clarke, 26, 2 jobs, $94,000. In medical debt from her brother's hospitalizations. Student loans and deferment, $67,000. 1 parking ticket she'd been fighting for 6 months because her car got towed while she was working a double shift. She was drowning. And she was too proud to grab the rope. Marcus, contact Boston Medical Center. Find out who handles their indigent care fund. Sir, make a donation. Anonymous, $200,000. Enough to clear 20 patient accounts, including one Liam Clarke, age 21, epilepsy. Marcus didn't even blink. 12 years working for the Caldwells meant nothing surprised him anymore. How much specifically for the Clarke account? Whatever it takes to zero it out. And Marcus? Nathaniel watched Seraphina disappear into Sacred Heart. If she finds out it was me, you're fired. Understood, sir. That night, Nathaniel sat with his mother in her Beacon Hill brownstone. 4 stories of red brick and old money, the kind of house that had been in the Caldwell family since his grandfather bought it with cash in 1962, cash that came from sources nobody talked about anymore. Margaret was recovering, bruises fading, sharp as ever. You've been asking about her, Margaret said, not looking up from her tea. I wanted to thank her properly. How'd that go? She hung up on me, then told me to leave her workplace, then implied I'm a soulless capitalist who thinks everything's for sale. Margaret laughed. Real laughter, the kind Nathaniel hadn't heard since his father died. Smart girl, and she's infuriating. She's honest. Margaret set down her teacup, Wedgwood inherited, worth $400. When's the last time someone told you the truth without wanting something? Nathaniel didn't answer, because the answer was never. Every conversation he had was a negotiation. Every relationship, transactional, except this one. I saw her apartment building, Margaret continued. Marcus drove me past it yesterday. The mother. That boy of hers, Liam, he's barely holding on. Seizures every few weeks. Can't keep steady work. She's killing herself trying to save him. Margaret looked at him directly. Reminds me of someone. Don't. You were 17 when your father had his first heart attack. 24 when he died during that federal investigation. You worked yourself into the ground, trying to prove you weren't just Vincent Caldwell's son with complicated history. This is different. Is it? Or are you seeing yourself in her and it scares the hell out of you? Silence. Rain against the windows. The grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Steady, expensive, the sound of old money and older secrets. She doesn't want my help, Nathaniel finally said. She doesn't want your charity. There's a difference. Margaret stood, kissed his forehead. Help her in ways she can't trace. Be smarter than your money for once. 3 days later, Seraphina opened her mailbox. Letter from Boston Medical Center. Official letterhead. Her hands shook opening it. Dear Ms. Clarke, due to a recent anonymous donation to our Patient Assistance Fund, your brother Liam Clarke's outstanding balance of $47,228 and 16 cents has been cleared in full. Additionally, his future treatment at BMC will be covered under our expanded indigent care program. No action required. She read it 3 times. Then she cried in the stairwell where Liam couldn't hear. Then she got angry because there was only one person with enough money and enough audacity. She typed, "We need to talk, now." 3 dots appeared immediately. He'd been waiting. They met on the hospital rooftop at 9 p.m. Neutral ground. Seraphina's choice. She was in scrubs. He was in a $3,000 suit. The Boston skyline glittered behind them, his world of glass towers and her world of triple-deckers with sagging porches. "You had no right," Seraphina said. "No hello, no pretense." "You're correct," Nathaniel replied. That stopped her. She'd been ready for a fight. Then why? Because I could. Because you shouldn't have to choose between your brother's life and your own. He leaned against the railing, and for the first time, he looked tired, human. Because I watched my father work himself to death, trying to prove he was legitimate, and I see you doing the same thing. That's not... You're 26. You work 80-hour weeks. You haven't seen a doctor yourself in 3 years? Yes, I checked. You're 1 car accident, 1 missed shift away from complete collapse. So, forgive me if I used my evil billionaire money to prevent that. Seraphina was quiet for a long moment. "You don't get it. Explain it to me." "That debt was mine. I earned it saving my brother. It was proof that I didn't give up on him when everyone else did. The doctors who said he'd never have a normal life, the insurance companies who denied every claim, the family who said I should put him in a state facility and move on." Her voice cracked. "That debt was my badge of honor. That debt was killing you. But it was mine." She turned to him, and in the streetlight he could see tears she was too stubborn to let fall. "You took away the one thing I could point to and say, I did that. I kept him alive. Me. Now what do I have?" Nathaniel stared at her. "You have your brother, healthy, alive. Isn't that the point?" "You really don't get it." She laughed, bitter. "Rich people never do." They stood in silence. The city breathed below them. Sirens, traffic, humanity grinding forward. "My father," Nathaniel said quietly, "built Caldwell Industries from organized crime money, laundered cash, construction unions with problematic ties, contracts awarded through intimidation. He spent 20 years going legitimate, died of a heart attack during a federal investigation that cleared him posthumously." Seraphina looked at him, really looked. "I've spent my entire adult life trying to prove we're not that anymore. Every safety regulation I enforce, every worker benefit I add, it's all me trying to atone for what my family was. So when I see someone suffering because the system's rigged..." His jaw tightened. "I fix it because I can. Because nobody fixed it for us when we were clawing our way up." That's not the same, isn't it? You're angry because I saw your struggle and eliminated it. I'm angry because my father never asked for help, and it killed him. Maybe we're both too goddamn stubborn." Despite herself, Seraphina almost smiled. Maybe. They talked for an hour about Liam's seizures, about Margaret's sharp wisdom, about the city they both loved, and the different versions they inhabited. For the first time, they weren't fighting. They were just talking. Then her phone rang. Liam panicked. "Sir, someone called the building manager. Said we're violating occupancy rules because I'm not on the lease. They're threatening eviction." They said his breathing was fast, erratic, the warning before a seizure. "We got 3 days to fix it or we're out." Seraphina's blood turned to ice. "Who called?" "A woman." Fancy voice. Said she was concerned about building code violations. Across the rooftop, Seraphina's eyes met Nathaniel's. "Victoria," she whispered. Nathaniel's expression went cold, lethal. "I'll handle it." "No." Seraphina's voice was steel. "She came after my brother. This is personal now. It happened in 72 hours. Hour 1, Sacred Heart announced budget cuts. 10 nurses laid off. Seraphina's name was on the list. Last hired, first fired, nothing personal. Hour 12, Liam collapsed at Dunkin'. Grand mal seizure behind the counter, customers screaming. Coffee machine still running when the EMTs arrived. He woke up in the ER with a black eye and second-degree burns on his right arm. Can't work now. Can't pay his share of bills. Hour 24, the nursing board received a formal complaint. Seraphina Clarke engaged in unprofessional conduct by allegedly soliciting financial donations from patients' families. Multiple violations of ethics code. Recommend immediate investigation and potential license suspension. Signed, Anonymous. But Seraphina knew. Hour 48. The building manager delivered the eviction notice personally. I got a call from a law firm. They're representing concerned residents about lease violations and safety hazards. I can't fight lawyers, kid. 2 weeks. In hour 72, Seraphina sat in the nursing home break room at 3 a.m., staring at the papers spread across the table. Eviction notice. Nursing board investigation letter. Sacred Heart termination notice, effective in 30 days. BMC paycheck, short because she'd missed shifts for Liam's hospitalization. Liam's new ER bill, $8,942. The math didn't work. It never worked, but now it was impossible. Janet found her there. Clarke, go home. Can't. Home's gone in 2 weeks. Jesus. Janet sat down and the plastic chair creaked. That complaint? Everyone knows it's bullshit. You're the best nurse here. You stayed with Mrs. O'Malley when she died because her family wouldn't come. Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what they can prove. Seraphina's voice was flat, dead. And I can't afford a lawyer to fight it. Her phone lit up. Nathaniel, I heard about the board complaint. Let me help, please. She should say yes. She should swallow her pride and let the billionaire fix everything. But Victoria's voice echoed in her head, almost charming, in a Dickensian sort of way. This is what Victoria wanted. Proof that Seraphina was exactly what she thought. A charity case, a nobody who needed rescue, someone who didn't belong in Nathaniel's world. If Seraphina accepted help now, Victoria won. Even if Seraphina kept her job, her license, her apartment, she'd always be the poor girl who needed saving. She deleted the text, typed a new one. I appreciate it, but I need to handle this myself. Please respect that. His response was immediate. You're making a mistake. Maybe, probably. But it was her mistake to make. Liam found her on the pull-out couch at 5 a.m., still in scrubs, staring at nothing. Sarah. His voice was rough from the seizure, from the breathing tube they'd had to use. The burn on his arm was wrapped in gauze. We should ask him. Nathaniel, he could... No. Why not? Pride doesn't pay rent. It's not about pride. She struggled to explain. If we take his money now, we're proving Victoria right. That we're just street trash trying to climb above our station. Maybe we don't belong, Liam said quietly. Fuck that. The rage came sudden hot. We don't belong? We built this city. Grandpa laid bricks in half these buildings. Mom cleaned the offices where people like Victoria work. We've got more right to Boston than those Beacon Hill assholes ever will. Then prove it. Not by refusing help, by winning. Seraphina looked at him. When did her little brother get wise? How? Liam grinned. Weak, but there. I got an idea, but you're not gonna like it. He opened his laptop. Remember how I said I was learning cybersecurity for my computer science classes? His fingers flew across the keyboard. Turns out Victoria Ashford has a very interesting digital footprint, and I might know someone who can access things that aren't exactly public record. Seraphina stared. Liam, that's illegal, maybe, but so is filing false complaints to destroy someone's career. He looked at her. So, are we fighting or not? Seraphina looked at the papers on the table, at her brother's burned arm, at the eviction notice, at the choice, give up or go to war. Make the call, she said. Liam's someone who knows someone was Danny Nguyen, MIT dropout, lived in a Somerville basement apartment that smelled like energy drinks and server heat, made money doing ethical gray area data recovery. Translation, he hacked rich people and sold their secrets to journalists. Your Victoria problem? Danny pulled up files on 3 monitors. She's a gold mine. The Ashford Family Foundation, tax-exempt charity, supposed to fund medical research and scholarships for underprivileged students. Victoria was director of operations, except the scholarships went to Victoria's friends' kids at private schools. The medical research grants went to a shell corporation owned by her uncle in the Cayman Islands, and the foundation had been quietly siphoning money to offshore accounts for 6 years. Total embezzlement, $2.4 million. Holy shit, Seraphina whispered. Gets better. Danny pulled up more files. The nursing board complaint against you, filed from Victoria's office IP address at Caldwell Industries, used her personal email. She didn't even try to hide it. Can we use this? You can't. I can't. It's illegally obtained, Danny grinned. But if someone at the Massachusetts Attorney General's office received an anonymous tip with publicly available evidence that suggested they should look deeper, and if a certain journalist at the Globe got a similar tip, that's just civic duty, right? Liam looked at Seraphina. So? She should say no. Should take the high road. Do it. In this world where karma moves like clockwork and justice sometimes comes from unexpected places, what follows next reflects the kind of poetic resolution we all hope exists, where truth surfaces and wrongs are righted. While inspired by real cases of white-collar fraud and whistleblower exposure, the specific methods and timeline here are compressed for storytelling. In reality, legal processes take months or years. But the spirit of this justice? That's real. Meanwhile, Margaret Caldwell made phone calls. People forgot. Before she was a billionaire's mother, she was Vincent Caldwell's wife. And Vincent didn't build an empire through kindness. He built it through leverage, loyalty, and knowing exactly where everyone's bodies were buried. Margaret didn't have the muscle anymore. But she had something better: memory. Call number 1. Paul Richardson, chairman of the Massachusetts Nursing Board. Paul, it's Margaret Caldwell. Yes, long time. Listen, that complaint against Seraphina Clarke? Pull the file, check the IP address. You'll find something interesting. Call number 2. Her lawyer, David Chen, Pitbull in Ferragamo, represented the Caldwells for 30 years. David, I need a full workup on Victoria Ashford. Financial, professional, personal, yesterday. Call number 3. Boston Medical Center administrator. Richard, remember when my husband endowed your pediatric wing? I'm calling in that favor. Seraphina Clarke needs protection, hire her back, full-time, benefits, lose the paperwork. Call number 4, her son. Nathaniel, it's time we reminded Boston who the Caldwells are, and who the Ashfords are not. Nathaniel found Victoria at her office in Caldwell Industries. She still kept one there, despite their relationship ending 2 years ago. She'd never accepted it was over. We need to talk, Nathaniel said, closing the door. Victoria smiled. Poisonous. If this is about that little nurse, Seraphina Clarke. Her name is Seraphina Clarke. You can't seriously be interested in... Withdraw the nursing board complaint. Today. Victoria laughed. Or what? You'll fire me? My family connections are too valuable, are worthless compared to... Investigation. Landing on your foundation tomorrow. Nathaniel's voice was ice. I've seen the numbers. $2. $4 million in embezzlement. Your signature on half the wire transfers. Victoria's smile cracked. You're bluffing. The Attorney General's office receives a detailed package tomorrow morning, along with every major news outlet in Boston. Your family's foundation gets shut down, you'll be indicted, and everyone you've ever sneered at will watch you fall. You wouldn't, unless you disappear. Withdraw the complaint, quit your position, stay away from Seraphina and her brother. This is because of her? That nobody? Victoria's voice rose. She's using you. Seraphina Clarke refused my money, twice, hung up on me. She's the only person in my life who's wanted nothing from me. So no, Victoria, she's not using me. But you did. For 2 years. Silence. There's a hospital fundraiser gala next week. The one you've been planning. Nathaniel's smile was sharp. I'll be there. With Seraphina. As my guest. And you'll watch. That's cruel. No, that's consequence. The nursing board hearing lasted 17 minutes. Paul Richardson, chairman, looked at the evidence. Ms. Clarke, the complaint against you has been withdrawn. Furthermore, our investigation revealed the IP address and email account used to file it belonged to Victoria Ashford, who has no legitimate connection to this case. This appears to be harassment. He closed the folder. You're cleared, with apologies from this board. Whoa. Seraphina walked out of that building and screamed in the parking lot. Pure relief, her phone rang. Nathaniel. The gala's Friday. Will you come, as my guest? She should say no. She didn't belong at a black tie fundraiser with Boston's elite. But Victoria would be there, and Seraphina was done running. Yeah, I'll come. Thank you. And Seraphina? His voice softened. Wear whatever you're comfortable in. You don't need to dress like them to be better than them. Thursday afternoon, Margaret Caldwell showed up at Seraphina's apartment, the one she was no longer being evicted from because the concerned resident's complaint mysteriously vanished. May I come in? Margaret asked. The studio had never looked smaller, but Margaret sat on the pull-out couch like it was a throne. Tomorrow night will be difficult, Margaret said. Victoria will try to humiliate you. She'll weaponize your clothes, your education, your accent. Everything that makes you you, she'll try to turn into shame. I know. Good. Because here's what you do. Own it. Margaret's eyes were steel. When she comments on your dress, thank her and say it's thrifted because you believe in sustainability. When she mentions Harvard, mention nursing school because you wanted to actually help people. Every insult she throws, you turn into authenticity. I'm not good at these games. You're not playing her game, you're playing yours, and your game is truth. Margaret leaned forward. I've lived in their world 50 years, watched them eat each other alive over inherited money and fake smiles. You know what they can't handle? Someone who doesn't give a damn what they think. Liam, listening from his computer, grinned. Sarah's an expert at not giving a damn. Margaret laughed, pulled a small box from her purse. This was my mother's, Irish immigrant who cleaned houses in Dorchester until she died. Never got to wear it to fancy parties. Of it inside, a simple silver bracelet. No diamonds, just elegant. I can't. You can, because tomorrow night, you're representing every woman who was told she didn't belong. Every nurse who's been looked down on. Every working person who's been sneered at by people who never did a hard day's work. Seraphina slipped it on. Perfect fit. One more thing, Margaret said at the door. Victoria's family received official notice today. The Attorney General's investigation is public record. By tomorrow night, everyone at that gala will know. She'll be desperate, cornered, dangerous. So? Margaret smiled. So finish her. Friday, 2 p.m. Victoria made her last move. She leaked a story to Boston's social scene blog. Local nurse gold digs billionaire after saving his mother. Is Seraphina Clarke Boston's latest social climber? The article included photos of Seraphina's apartment building, her student loan debt, speculation about her convenient rescue. It was vicious, public, designed to destroy Seraphina before she walked into the gala. Seraphina read it on her phone. Her hands shook with rage. Then the comments started. But they weren't attacking her. They were defending her. This nurse worked 3 jobs while caring for a disabled brother. That's not gold digging, that's surviving. I was a patient at Sacred Heart. Seraphina Clarke is a saint. Victoria Ashford's family is under investigation for embezzling from their own charity. Maybe focus on that? The article backfired, spectacularly. By 5 p.m., hashtag I Stand With Seraphina was trending in Boston. The viral tide had turned. Friday, 6:45 p.m. Seraphina stood outside the Boston Harbor Hotel. Women in couture gowns glided past. Men in custom tuxedos. She wore a $30 thrift store black dress and her mother's St. Christopher medal. Nathaniel's Mercedes pulled up. He stepped out in a tuxedo that made him look born for this world. Their eyes met. He offered his arm. Ready to burn it all down? Seraphina took his arm. Let's go to war. The Boston Harbor Hotel ballroom glittered like a vault of wealth. Crystal chandeliers worth more than houses. Ice sculptures, champagne towers. 500 of Boston's most powerful people in one room. Old money, new money, political money. Seraphina and Nathaniel entered. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Whispers rippled outward like shockwaves. That's her, the nurse. When I heard she threatened Victoria. No, I heard Victoria's family is being investigated. Nathaniel's hand rested on the small of Seraphina's back. Protective. Proud. Victoria saw them from across the room. Crimson Valentino gown that cost more than a car. Her smile was venomous. She glided over. Nathaniel, how unexpected. I didn't realize we were allowing staff to attend donor events now. We're not, Nathaniel said smoothly. We're allowing human beings, which excludes about half the people here. But Seraphina made the cut. First blood. Victoria's smile tightened. She turned to Seraphina. That's a lovely dress. Very authentic. Is it vintage? Thrift store, Seraphina said flatly. $17. Figured I'd save money so I could donate more to actual charity. You know, the real kind, not the fake kind. A nearby guest went silent. Someone coughed. Victoria's face flushed. I have no idea what you're implying. Sure you don't. Seraphina sipped her champagne. First time ever tasting it. Honestly overrated. How's your family's foundation doing? Must be tough when the Attorney General starts asking questions. That's a private matter. Not anymore. Margaret Caldwell appeared beside them, resplendent in midnight blue. As of 4 p.m. today, the investigation became public record. The Boston Globe's running the story tomorrow. Front page. Victoria's composure cracked. You did this, you bitter old... Careful. Margaret's voice could freeze fire. You're at a charity event for a hospital, where nurses, like Seraphina, save lives while you shuffle embezzled money between accounts. The circle of onlookers grew. This was Boston society's favorite sport, watching someone fall. Victoria's voice rose, desperate. She's using him! Can't you all see it? This nobody appears conveniently when his mother's attacked, plays the hero, and suddenly she's at our events wearing thrift store clothing, trying to infiltrate. Victoria. Nathaniel's voice cut like a scalpel. Stop talking. I will not. Everyone here knows what she is. A gold digger, a social climber. A nurse who makes $19 an hour and refused my money 3 times. Nathaniel's voice carried across the ballroom now. People were staring. Phones were out, not secretly, openly recording. A woman who saved my mother's life and asked for nothing versus you, someone who dated me for business. Connections and filed false complaints to destroy her career when I showed interest in someone else. Victoria's face went white, then red. That's not... There's video. Liam's voice came from the ballroom entrance. He walked in, thrift store suit, hair slicked back, slight limp from the seizure burns. But his laptop was open, and suddenly the ballroom's AV system displayed his screen. Security footage. Victoria in her office at Caldwell Industries typing the nursing board complaint. Timestamp visible. IP address clear. That's from the Caldwell server, Liam said conversationally. Funny how network security logs everything. Then another video. Country club. Victoria with 3 friends, martinis flowing, audio crystal clear. Honestly can't believe Nathaniel is slumming with that nurse. She probably gives hand jobs in the supply closet for extra shifts. Victoria's voice, unmistakable. Gasps. Actual gasps from the crowd. And her brother? That epileptic leech? God, imagine having that in your family. I'd have put him in a home and moved on. Someone shouted, "Turn it off!" But it played. Every vicious word, every cruel laugh. When it ended, silence. Victoria was shaking. That was private. You had no right. You had no right to file false complaints, Margaret said. No right to try to evict a disabled man from his home. No right to use your position to destroy a woman whose only crime was being good at her job. A man in the crowd spoke up, someone Seraphina didn't recognize. I'm Dr. Richard Chen, president of Boston Medical Center. Miss Clarke was one of our most dedicated nurses before budget cuts. As of tonight, I'm offering her a full-time position, ER department, with benefits. He looked at Victoria. And Miss Ashford, your family's foundation will no longer receive our partnership endorsement. Another voice. Margaret, Paul Richardson, Nursing Board. That complaint's been forwarded to the State Ethics Commission. Miss Ashford will be investigated for filing false reports. Another. Victoria, David Chung from the Globe. Can I get a quote about the embezzlement allegations? Another. This is Sarah Chen from Channel 7. Miss Ashford, do you deny the allegations? Victoria looked around. Every face was disgusted, gleeful at her downfall, or coldly indifferent. She ran, literally ran in 4-inch heels, stumbling out of the ballroom. The crowd erupted in whispers, then conversation, then laughter. Nathaniel pulled Seraphina close. You okay? She was shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from justice. Yeah, she whispered. I'm good. Margaret raised her glass. To Seraphina Clarke, who reminded us all that class isn't about money, it's about character. The ballroom, slowly, then louder, applauded. Real applause. Not polite charity gala clapping, genuine appreciation. Seraphina felt Nathaniel's hand squeeze hers, felt Margaret's arm around her shoulders, felt Liam grinning beside her. For the first time in her entire life, she felt seen, not as the poor girl, not as the charity case, not as the nobody from Southie, as someone who mattered. Later that night, Victoria sat alone in her Beacon Hill apartment. Her phone had been ringing nonstop. Her parents, her lawyer, friends who were suddenly former friends. She let it ring. On her laptop, the gala video, 2.3 million views. Hashtag Victoria Ashford. Exposed trending nationwide. Her entire life destroyed in one night. She opened her desk drawer, stared at the bottle of Xanax prescribed for social anxiety. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. She answered. A woman's voice. Cold and professional. Miss Ashford, this is Agent Sarah Mitchell with the FBI Financial Crimes Division. We need to discuss your family's foundation. Don't leave the state. Click. Victoria stared at the phone. Then she started to cry. 3 weeks later, Seraphina was back at Boston Medical Center, full-time ER nurse, benefits package, salary that let her sleep more than 4 hours a night. Liam was enrolled full-time at Northeastern, computer science major, working part-time for Margaret's digital security consulting. Completely legal, mostly. The Ashford Family Foundation was shut down. Victoria faced federal charges, out on bail, banned from social media, living in her parents' Vermont summer house while the case built. Boston moved on, new scandals, new drama. But Seraphina still couldn't believe it was real, that she'd won, that her life was stable. She was on the hospital rooftop, the same place where she and Nathaniel first really talked, where Liam's panicked call had shattered their conversation weeks ago. Footsteps, she knew them now. Hey, Nathaniel said. Hey yourself. He sat beside her, quiet for a long moment, watching the city lights. My mother's hosting dinner next week, Nathaniel said finally. She's inviting you and Liam. No business, no strings, just family. Family, Seraphina repeated. The word felt foreign, dangerous, wonderful. She likes you more than me, I think. He smiled. Keeps saying you have spine, and I need someone to keep me honest. She's not wrong. I know. He turned to face her. I've been thinking about what you said. That night, when you were angry about the debt, you said I didn't understand what it meant to have something be yours. Nathaniel. You were right. I've always fixed problems with money because that's all I knew. But you taught me something. His voice was quiet, sincere. The most valuable things, trust, respect, love, those have to be earned, can't be bought. Seraphina's throat tightened. I'm not perfect, Nathaniel continued. I'm going to default to throwing money at problems. I'm going to be overprotective. I'm going to frustrate you. Definitely, she agreed. But I'm asking if you're willing, let me try. Not to save you, not to fix you, just to be with you. As equals, no transactions, no rescue fantasies, just two stubborn people who somehow made each other better. Seraphina looked at him, really looked, At the man who'd paid her brother's bills and never asked for credit, who'd stood beside her when his ex tried to destroy her, who was learning, slowly, that wealth meant nothing without humanity. "I don't need a billionaire," she said softly. Nathaniel's face fell slightly. "I need Nathaniel Drake. The guy who sits with his mom and actually listens, who reformed his company's policies because he couldn't live with himself otherwise, who looks at me like I'm worth something." "You're worth everything," he said immediately. "That's the problem with you rich guys." Seraphina smiled. "You don't do anything halfway." "Is that a yes?" "It's a, let's see where this goes." She took his hand. "No promises, no fairy tale, just us, figuring it out. I can work with that." They kissed on the rooftop, the city sprawling below them, the hospital humming with life behind them. Not a movie moment, just two people choosing each other despite everything that said they shouldn't. Real. Messy. Earned. 1 year later, Liam graduated Northeastern. Seraphina screamed louder than anyone, front row, ugly crying. Margaret's health was perfect. She'd started a foundation, a real one, funding nursing school scholarships for low-income students. Seraphina helped run it. Nathaniel proposed. Not on a rooftop or fancy restaurant, but in Seraphina's tiny apartment, the one she kept even after moving some things to his brownstone, because "I need to remember where I came from." The ring was simple, practical, perfect. She said yes. Victoria Ashford pleaded guilty. 2 years federal prison, 5 years probation. Her family quietly left Boston. Nobody missed them. Margaret, at Liam's graduation party, pulled Seraphina aside. "You know what your generation gets that mine never did? You know your worth doesn't come from what you own. It comes from what you do when nobody's watching. My husband built an empire on fear. My son's rebuilding it on integrity. But you never needed to build anything. You already had it. Kindness, courage. The stubborn belief that people deserve better. That's not wealth you inherit. That's wealth you create. Every shift you work, every patient you comfort, every time you refuse to let the world make you cruel. You saved my life that night. But more than that, you saved my son from becoming his father. So thank you for reminding us all that the strongest thing a person can be is good." Seraphina hugged her tight. "Thank you for seeing me." "Always," Margaret whispered. "That's what family does. They tell you wealth is measured in zeros behind a number. In the weight of gold in your vault, the square footage of your house, the horsepower under your hood. But here's what they don't tell you. Gold is heavy. It weighs you down, makes you slower, easier to catch when karma comes calling. Real wealth, that's measured different. It's measured in the 3 a.m. shifts you work so your brother can keep his medication, in the stranger you help even when you got nothing left to give, in the moment you choose character over comfort, truth over transaction, courage over cash. Victoria Ashford wore a gold-plated mask her whole life. Looked perfect, felt hollow, cracked the second real pressure hit. Seraphina Clarke wore Crocs and secondhand scrubs. But she had something no amount of money can buy, a heart that refused to let the world make it cruel. That's a billionaire heart, not because it's worth $1 billion, but because it's priceless. And you? You already know which one you are. The only question is, what are you going to do about it?